Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Ch.15 Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vidyagravinam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are still in our 15th chapter, Purushottama Yoga. And what verse are we on?
Chapter 15, number 15.
15:15. Got it, Deepa?
Mm-hmm.
You help us out, please.
Yeah. Sarvasya chaham hridi samnivishto matta smritirjnanam apamohanam cha Vedaischa sarver hameva vaidyo Vedanta kritve the Vedanta kritve the viddeva chaham. And I am seated in the heart of the hearts of all. From me are memory, knowledge, as well as their absence. I am verily that which has to be known in all the Vedas. I am indeed the author of Vedanta, and the knower of the Vedas am I.
Okay, this is a very important and wonderful verse. So let's parse it. So the first idea again.
I am seated in the heart of the hearts of all.
So we want to talk about what is the spiritual heart. We can look at this at various levels. Some people think of it as the Anahata Chakra, the heart center, from which all the nadis go to the various parts of the body. It's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is, for some reason, when human beings refer to themselves, they tend to gesture to their chest. Nobody says, which one of you is Jim? Oh, I'm Jim. Nobody does that. My friend Setu, he's the only person who says, which one of you is Setu? I'm Setu. He points to his shoulder.
But always the right shoulder?
I'm not sure which shoulder it is. But most of us, we refer to us, it's me, I'm here. I'm not sure why that is. Some of the ancient scriptures then would locate the self. In Kathopanishad, it says, meditate on the self like a flame the size of your thumb, located in the heart. Okay, I'm going to go meditate and see if I can see a flame inside my chest. No, that's not what this verse means. The Hrudaya, the spiritual heart, means the very core of our being. So it means when the intellect, which is the awareness of thought, becomes completely thinned out. And the manas, the mind, where we have the awareness of feelings, judgments, etc., is completely thinned out and has ceased all of its striving, all of its struggle. Those two come together. That we call the heart of our hearts, spiritual. It is another name for pure awareness. Where do your thoughts happen? My field of awareness. Where do my feelings happen? My field of awareness. Where does sense perception happen? My field of awareness. Where do memories happen? In my field of awareness. Where do my plans for the future happen? In my field of awareness. What is the ultimate context for all content? This is the heart of hearts. This is Krishna. He's not inside your chest, seated on a little lotus path. It's romanticism. Any thoughts on this? Now, it does not mean that here in the heart chakra, Anahata chakra, we don't have work to do. I was talking with a comparatively new student who some time ago had traveled all the way to Peru and had done an ayahuasca retreat with a Peruvian shaman, and had his heart just burst open. And then he came back and went on a Vipassana retreat, and in the midst of it, there was just all this stinging and pain in his heart. Many of us will have lots and lots of phenomena happen as we continue along the path, and all sorts of energy centers. You'll get buzzings in your third eye. You may feel energy coming out the top of your head. Normally, if it's like second chakra, we don't identify as such. We just feel lust. But these things happen. It's part of the spiritual process. We observe them, get all hung up in them. They arise, they exist, and they pass. But this cracking open of the heart, when that happens for many of us, we have just waves of tears and emotion arise. It's all wonderful. It's all part of the process. In the Christian Irish monastic tradition, they talk about the gift of tears. The unconscious begins to unload. And all of a sudden we feel this openness in our hearts. Love in the worldly sense is third chakra, with attachment and desire. But when the heart chakra opens, this is the seat of divine. We can develop it. We can practice loving as God loves. Now I have news for you. God has no taste. God loves people that you and I would have nothing to do with. So part of our job is to learn to love as God loves. It's indiscriminate love. No thought of return. Swamiji used to say, "My love is like a fire hose. Whoever gets in front of me gets lost." Very true. There's layers of meaning, but the important meaning to understand here, the spiritual heart is the absolutely silent intellect, mind, the emotional body, free from all struggle, everything lets go. And in that silence, realize Chidananda Rupaha, I am of the form of this consciousness. Next idea.
From me are memory, knowledge, as well as their absence.
So here, memory, knowledge is a catch-all for all the entire range of mental, psychological, we could even say psychic phenomena. Who is the knower of your memories? I am this is. Who is the knower of your dreams and joys? I is. Whatever it is that you know, who knows it? I do. That is Krishna. Next idea.
I am verily that which has to be known in all the Vedas.
So, the Vedas are divided into various sections. They're parsed by the scholars, the commentators. We have the mantra portion, which are hymns. Actually, the closest word in English that we can come to, and I don't mean this in any judgment, is spells. They are chants to accomplish things. Then there's the Brahmana section, which are the rubrics, the directions given to the priests to do it. So if you want the crops to be good, you need these many priests, and you build the altar this way, and everybody faces this way or that way, and you need these particular oblations, and this is how you do the fire, and these are the mantras that you chant. The third portion is the Aranyakas, which literally means forest literature. Now, the earlier part, and including some of the upasanas, the devotional practices in the forest literature, are what we call the karma kanda portion of the Vedas. They teach us how to live a righteous life in this world and how to fulfill our righteous desires in the world, how to have a good family, how to raise your kids, how to be successful in whatever commercial endeavor you're engaged in. And then in the Aranyakas, the concluding portion of the Vedas is the Vedanta. Veda Anta. Anta means the end. The concluding portion of the various Vedas are the Upanishads. Upanishad, which literally means to sit down near. This is the Jnana Kanda, the knowledge portion of the Vedas. Most scholars identify 108 Upanishads. I think 11 of them is pretty much the standard number that we call the Mukhya Upanishads, the principal ones. They're not because they're more important so much, it's that they were commented on by Shankara. And then people have thought of them as important, and other masters have commented on them as the years go on. So we have the Vedas, which is how to live a righteous life. This is the karma kanda portion. Then we have the Vedanta, Vedanta, the knowledge portion. What is the essential nature of a human being? What is this phenomenal world? How has all this come about? Those are the questions covered in the Upanishads. So we call these Shruti. What does Shruti mean?
Memory,
No,
remembrance.
that's Smriti. Shruti comes like Shravana, hearing. What does that mean? It means it's the direct evidence a woman or a man of knowledge gets. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're hearing voices. You have Ganesh write it down. It's like this. If aliens came from outer space and they had looked at some religious art, and they thought human beings had 3 heads and 4 arms, they ran into Deepa. Hail, Earthling! You look different than the pictures. Do human beings have 3 heads and 4 arms? What's your answer?
No, not visibly so.
How do you know this?
Direct observation.
And direct experience. So this is what the rishis have done. The Upanishads come out of their direct experience. This is the deepest meaning of Shruti. It doesn't mean they are inviolable. They're absolutely true. Everything that's in them that was written thousands of years ago is absolutely true. There's no growth in understanding or anything like that. And we accept it because they were revealed from God. That's fundamentalism. No real spirituality ever asks you to abandon reason. all scriptures, without exception, have a cultural and a historical context. Culture and history changes. What a human being is does not. We have a physical nature, we have an emotional nature, we have a thought life, we have a sense of individuality, and at the core of our being is consciousness. That never changes. The role of women in society, the role of men in society, who should do what job, what should a marriage look like, who's acceptable, who's not acceptable. All that is culture. We look at it. But culture and history change. Any thoughts on this? So we have to be able to discern the difference.
Hi, Jim. This is Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
I had a thought on the first idea just before I lose my thought was when you were talking about the heart and the chest and all of that. I was just I couldn't help but think of the Hanuman image when he opens up his heart, and then there's, I believe, Rama and Sita. Yeah.
All of this is mystic symbolism.
Mm.
Mystic symbolism. It's not physiological. And by the way, these ideas are transcultural. You'll have the Sacred Heart of Jesus. You'll see Christian paintings of Jesus with a heart, sacred, stuff like that. So this idea of the divinity of the heart is reasonably common. If you want to open that heart chakra, you can put your attention there. The bija mantra for the Anahata chakra is yum, yum, yum. Vibrate that center with that mantra. See what happens. All right, next idea in this particular sloka.
I am indeed the author of Vedanta.
So both the knowledge of the Vedas and the Vedanta come from Krishna. Now, it not only means that a rishi, a muni, a swamini becomes an Upanishad when she is rooted in the sound. But from the beginning of what it is to be human, this Guru Shishya Parampara, this transmission of the path to self-realization gets handed down. And it comes from the infant. Next idea.
And the knower of the Vedas.
So whatever knowledge is known, who knows it? I do. The self is the knower of the field in all fields. Remember, we had that in the Kshetranya chapter. Listen carefully. Real spirituality is profound common sense. Doesn't mean it's not glorious, sublime. Dimensions of it can be pretty woo-woo. But the heart of it all is profound common sense. Does not require us to go off to a mountain, live in a cave, wear orange clothes. If we truly examine our own direct experience, quiet mind, it's common sense, it's very direct. Is that the end of this shloka?
Mhm.
Okay, next one.
Dvavimau purushau loke Sharakshakshakshara eva cha Shara sarvani bhutani Kutasthokshara uchyate. Two Purushas are there in this world, the perishable and the imperishable. All beings are the perishable, and the Kutastha is called the imperishable.
So this idea of this apparently two Purushas. Purusha means spirit, but its deeper meaning is person. Those of us who are going to start on our journey with Mundaka Upanishad, we're going to get the image of the two birds on the tree of life. One I called the greedy Tweety bird. The ego sense. The other is the sound. So we have to be clear to understand you don't have two selves. It just appears that way. In the subtle intellect, we have what's called ahankara, the ego sense. Vidyaranya uses the term chid abhasa, the reflection of consciousness. It's what in other scriptures is called the jiva or the jivatma. I'm not fond of that because a verse like this, calling it the jivatma, gives me the sense that there's something that's solid and real called the person, Jim. I'm more fond of Gaudapada's language, where he says, Jiva Bhavana. Bhavana in Sanskrit means a feeling or a thought, an attitude. Is it the same in Hindi?
Yeah.
So it's Jiva Bhavana, the feeling that I'm a person. The clearest way to understand this is to go to the dream state. We have Swapna Jiva Bhavana in the dream state. In the dream, I have a dream body, which is a locus of perception. I peep out at the dream world with that dream body. I speak from my own direct experience. I'm never fat in my dreams. I see perfectly in my dreams. It's like a completely different body. And there's an ego identification. That's me in the dream. And I look out at a dream world, and inside I have reactions. I have thoughts and feelings to that phenomenon. Is not that your experience too? But is the dreamer a completely different self? When you wake up, do you do like Dumbledore does with his wand and you pull out the memory and put it in the bowl? Take out the dream and put it in your dresser drawer? No. The dream body with the dream ego identified with it is Swapna Jiva Bhavana. It is an attitude, a feeling. And I'm the dreamer, identified with the dream body. Where does it go when you wake up? Gone. We can't say the dreamer merges with the waker. We can't say I glued to it or I become it. It was just something that the imagination produced. And when the dream's over, it's gone. Now listen carefully. The sense that I'm a person in this body in the waking state, with all my challenges, my dreams, my sorrows, my joys, my health issues, pleasures, my pains, all of it comes about like the dreamer. I'm in no way saying that we're not experiencing it. Why? You experience the dream. But to the waker, this waking world, I'm Vaishwanara, a person who knows the Vishwa, the waking state, seems real. But if I quieten the mind, if I tune it up, listen to the traffic for a minute. Mind as quiet as you could make it. See if you could notice who or what hears the traffic. Who are you? What's there is kutastha, the term Gita uses here. Kuta is either an anvil or a mountain. That's both meanings. The point is, if it's an anvil, all the various pieces of metal, they change on it, the anvil stays still, stita. It's a mountain, it's comparatively eternal. All the weather, the snow, the storms, the mountain goats, everything changes on it, but the mountain is stita, from sta tishtati, to stand, to be established. So the self is kutastha, still, empty, no form, change, yet the knower of all the change. Now listen carefully. The shift between the dreamer and the waker is a gross shift. dense energy. Having a wild dream, the alarm goes off, and God, all of a sudden I'm awake. The shift between the waker and the knowledge that I am Brahman is incredibly subtle. That does not mean it's not profound. May have come in and I'm a person and I have my problems and my challenges and my successes and my plans and my disappointments and my confusions and my certainties and my health here and my yada 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 yada. The dream of Jiva Bhavana. I think I'm a person. All that stuff. If I tune up the mind and go looking for that individual, it falls. What I see instead is Satchidananda Rupa. My nature is pure existence, pure awareness. No sorrow touches it. It is Kutastha, established, still, like a mountain. Jiva Bhavana is not a second person. Oh, I'm just Jim and I'm waiting when I become the Paramatman, or I'm going to realize it up there or something like that. No, you only have one self. Who sees the phone? I do. That's yourself. But I have two ideas about it. Because of spiritual ignorance, I think I'm a person. It's not just ideas or opinions. It's like the dream state. It's like hypnotism. It's powerful. You never say it is. And then knowledge is in the subtle intellect. I have this, oh, I see. I'm not a person. I never was. I am Brahman. Form, space, Chidakasha. And the dream of this world. You never see it sneak up on us. But all of a sudden, I think I'm a person. Names and forms are solid and real, and I got issues. And what the tradition says is drop the struggle of ego. Remember who you are. Beautiful, beautiful mantra. Did we get all the pieces in that one?
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Uttamaha Purushasthavanya Paramatme Paramatmetyaduha. Sorry, this is complex. Uttama Purushastvanya Paramatmetyudahritaha Yoga Yolokatrayamavishya Vibhartavyaya Ishvaraha. But distinct is the Supreme Purusha, called the highest self, the indestructible Lord, who, pervading the three worlds, waking, dream, and deep sleep, sustains them.
Now, again, we don't want to take it literalistically. Oh, yes, I'm going to get out my Ouija board and channel my higher self. No. Oh, I went into meditation. I saw this, it was like this purple flame, and at the top was this angelic being. That's the higher self. No. I'm not saying there are not beings on other planes and things like that, but we're not dealing with that. There's the thought, the deeply rooted conviction that I'm a person, meaning I'm the body plus the subtle body, the cause of which is ignorance. Then there is moksha, liberation, the liberated personality. When that Chidabhasa, that reflection of consciousness, has the deep insight, oh, I'm not a person. I'm the ground being. I am Brahman. I personally like the way it's framed in Yoga Vasishtha. Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind, technically the Vijnana Maya Kosha, the subtle intellect. The self is ever free. Now listen carefully. In truth, the self is never even bound. It's never even covered or occluded. Maya does not really cover the self. You can ask the most miserable of creatures, so and so, are you in life? Oh, no. Are you a miserable creature? Oh, yes, just the worm. Are you in ignorance? Terrible ignorance, terrible ignorance. Are you a person? Oh, yes, I'm a miserable person. I hope to be free someday, but I'm very miserable. Do you exist? Of course I exist. My existence is miserable person. Do you know your misery? Oh, yes, I know my misery. Do you know that you're in ignorance? Oh, I'm in terrible ignorance. In 4 lifetimes, maybe I'll get out of it. They thunder the truth. I am. I shine. I know. But in the subtle intellect is all this confusion and delusion. What we have, the technical term is called adhyasa. Who can remember what adhyasa is? All these years?
Imposition.
Yes, no, superimposition. Meaning, I have this constant, eternal experience. I am. When are you ever not you? And then on top of it, in my mind, in my imagination, I am the body. I am good. I am bad. I am fat. I am skinny. I'm man. I am woman. I'm old. I'm young. I'm successful. I'm a failure. I'm loved. I'm not loved. I'm gay. I'm straight. I'm conservative. I'm a progressive. All these ideas of self that I superimpose on the direct experience. I was listening to a speaker last night. She was talking about this crisis she's going through, all the various identities that they've held on to for so long. They're just not working. And they're striving and struggling, trying to secure these various identities, successful partner, successful person at work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just not working. And they're going into this thing of, I don't know who I am. And they were a little frightened and a bit depressed. Now, the psychiatrists want to give you pills. But I would say you are having the classic dark night of the soul. All the labels are falling away. We see their unreality, their insubstantial nature, and all the struggles that we're doing to try and reinforce I'm a successful human being. I'm worthy of being loved. I have value in the workplace. My ideas are more woke than other people's. All sorts of ways. Trying to hold on to some solid sense of self. Problem is, it's ephemeral, insubstantial, no more real than the dream person. Well, I feel like the hole in the donut. Who am I then? I'm not all these labels. Chidakashorupaham. My form is empty space, consciousness. So that midlife crisis, that spiritual dark night of the soul, it's a very high state if we use it. See it for what it is. When all of ego's strategies just quit working. For a while, we may just run faster. I'm going to break up with my partner and buy a red sports car. Maybe that'll work. Any thoughts on this? So these two selves that Gita's talking about, they're not two different entities. There's only one entity. You are the entity. The one who's here. And that is real. But the other one is the phony self, the counterfeit self, the Ch.15, the reflected self, the Chit-chaya, the shadow self, Ahankriti, the manufactured I. You don't get a new self, but we do realize the self that we've always been. Any thoughts or comments?
So Jim, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Through the practice, it does seem over time, I do tend to feel more power over the mind. It no longer has that much force. But then that seems to create a new kind of ego. You feel really powerful.
Who is it who's having power over the mind?
Me.
Brahman or another state of the ego?
I think it's another state of the ego.
Exactly. Now, in Shankara's description of Vairagya, he says that desire, I love it because we don't do it overnight, to give up all attachment to all enjoyments. The word is actually better translated as experiences gained through the senses. And the renunciation of all identifications with any personal sense of self, starting with the body, up to and including the form of Brahma, the creator. What that means is, yes, the ego can appropriate the practices itself. I'm very powerful over my mind. I've got it licked. I can do this. I can give this up. Look, this is feeling like I'm Brahma, the creator, a powerful person. So that too has to go. It doesn't mean not to use those tools in our interactions in the world. I call it the divine schizophrenia. That Chidabhasa is that which functions in and through the world. Hopefully in business, with your control of the mind, you're doing really well. And you are none of it. It can go in a trance. Is that useful?
Yeah.
In Gita, Krishna says this knowledge makes you mastery of this world and beyond. So the disciplines of mind that we acquire, that in the end allow us to realize our self-nature as we're developing, also make us skillful in action. He says yoga is skill in action. It's one of the things it does. And if you get identified and attached to it, you'll be cruising right along, feeling like a powerful person, and then smack. Ah! So he says, I am the karma phala data. I'm the giver of the fruits of action. What you and I get at the level of the individuality is the right to work. Hopefully you're enjoying it. But we also want to have an honest appraisal of our character traits, the strengths and challenges. Just like if you're building a part for your radar thing, you want to have an honest appraisal. This part works really well, that part isn't working too well. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
To be able to stand back and view the equipment objectively. This is a fascinating story. I don't know if I've told this. Years ago, in 1985, I think, it might have been 84, I was studying voice with Jess Thomas, who was a world-class Helden tenor. He had sung at the Met and in Bayreuth and stuff like that. Retired and was living in Tiburon. Unfortunately, I did not have the voice ability nor the technical ability to take real advantage of what he had to give. But it was really a cool experience. So he was there, and in my lesson, he sang this incredible phrase. And then he stopped and said, oh, that gave me goosebumps. Like there was a part of him that could just go and just be the objective witness of his own voice. And that was beautiful. Gave me goosebumps. With no ego. He did not, you could feel that he wasn't saying, oh, I am so fabulous. I don't know, it's very difficult to articulate, but it was as if he was standing apart, watching his voice. Well, that was really beautiful. That gave me goosebumps.
That makes sense. I sometimes experience a tape playing in my head about all sorts of ideas of how powerful I feel, which I know is like the opposite of that, but it's there.
And your equipment may be powerful. But if you start getting identified with it, believe me, other people will let you know. Because it's a very off-putting mind state. You know, when you move in the world feeling very powerful, because in order to reinforce that ego state, you got to let other people know about it.
Mm.
We have a presidential candidate who's in that state. Not saying he's not powerful. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So, you know, and there's you want to have an honest appraisal of your abilities. If you are doing things well in the world, acknowledge it. Swamiji used the term the art of man making. Here, man means both genders. So you want to see your body, mind, intellect like a work of art. So the painter who's painting the painting, if the painting is beautiful, he doesn't say, I am beautiful. You know, Michelangelo was a pretty homely guy. When he carved the David, he had no sense, I've got an absolutely smoking body. No, this work of art is gorgeous. So stand back. See this thing called Vinayak as a work of art. And it's actually more like a song or a dance than it is like a statue. How old is the Michelangelo David now? 400, 500 years?
500, but yeah.
But when you go to the symphony and you hear a symphony in an hour, it's gone. So you're how old now?
22.
Another 42 years. Like you're going to be dead. Maybe not. Certainly in 50. Human life is social. Cherish it. Enjoy its beauty. Try to do something of value. Make a contribution. Swamiji with thunder. Serve the society. It's perfectly okay to be really good at what you do. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. That I find a very useful maxim. And one of the first demonstrations of our abandonment of a personal sense of self is your willingness to tell us about your klesha, your shortcoming. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But it does not mean you should be less powerful. All right, next verse.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. Always.
And my question is like bumbled and formulating as I talk, but I've always struggled with what I should be talking about when it comes to talking about my life.
With other people?
Yeah. So to give you an example, I was at a 2-day, full day leadership training. And what they were trying to inculcate was, leadership with empathy. And so that led to a lot of talking about personal life events and, what are highs and lows, for example. But there is an inner, I would say, klesha or vice that requires me to tell everything like a nerd, narrate everything. So like if, most people would not have mentioned there was, I lost someone in the last year. I did. And then how it's impacting me and how it's coloring my leadership experience as well.
Yeah.
But I never know what is there's also, when I was in the class, there was a lot of a tape in my head that was playing that was dissing the information because, this is covered adequately in Vedanta. And I feel like they were only scratching upon some, the surface of empathy for another person, But then I got confused. Should I respect how much I know already from my sadhana? Should I be completely honest about my life events, which has had a fair number of tragic events, but also a fair number of highs? When do you stop talking? Most of the time I try to, so the good thing with sadhana studies has been that I talk on fewer occasions and I talk less. But I still find myself jostling with when it comes to representing your life. How do you package tragedy? And how do you package wealth or abundance?
All depends on the context. So here, I could be honest in a way that it's inappropriate in other places. If I were to be at, say, an AA meeting and talk about not being a person, never being touched, having no thoughts or feelings of my own, it would be inappropriate in that context. We do not want to unsettle the minds of the ignorant with the truth. So the yogi is in many ways a chameleon. You can be appropriate to the environment. The vast majority of people that I meet in that context have no idea that I'm a yogi. What I am there is a drama. Now, I have 38 years of sobriety. I have a lot of experience, all of which I frame dualistically, because that's the language of that context. There are common points. I talk about authenticity. In other contexts, I don't talk about that stuff at all. My little brother, I just listen. It's a ministry of presence. So there's no pat answer, Deepa. You know your own truths. But all I can recommend is when you're in an environment, trust your intuition. Don't lie. But there's a difference between rigorous honesty and compulsive disclosure. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that it might not be, for example, in a context like that, a leadership thing, for you to share some of your pain and challenges. Because that creates safe space for others to share.
Actually, that's what ended up happening. Everyone shared very intense life backgrounds.
Yeah. But my suspicion is you had the intuition that this is what I should share. Doesn't mean to make stuff up. But the tradition talks about what we call vyavahara, which means doing business, transactions at the worldly level. And just because we're yogis doesn't mean we have to talk funny. You can be in the world and not of it, as Jesus said. But I have no recipe. I can't give you a recipe. It's not particularly healthy to compartmentalize. And I'm Jim. I'm the same dude everywhere. I'm not particularly a censored person. But what I share, it all depends on context and where other people are at. Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. What verse are we on for next week? We have to quit here.
18.
18. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.